Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Spence, and thank you for tuning in for the Crime Prevention Show. Last time, I talked to you about murder prevention techniques. Today, however, I'll be talking to many guests about prevention techniques for many different types of crime. So how about we get this started? My first guest today is from the popular Pixar movie Cars. Please give a nice, warm welcome to Lightning McQueen. Ka-chow! Thank you so much, Mr. McQueen, for coming on to the show. Of course, Spence. It's no problem. As you know, motor vehicle theft is an issue in this country. There were an estimated 758,000 thefts in 2015. What do you think about this growing problem? Well, Spence, being a car myself, it's just always a worry that I'll be attacked. Very true. What do you think people can do to protect themselves from these terrors? Well, first off, Spence, it's important to know that most cars are stolen during the day. This is because most people are at work. It's important to never leave anything truly valuable in your car, because that is definitely one way to make it a target. Interesting. Well, Mr. McQueen, what do you think is a good way for people that aren't stashing important things in their cars to protect themselves? Well, you also should never leave your car running with the keys in it. And I know you may be thinking, what am I going to do with all these keys? But it's okay to keep them with you in your pockets or your purse. Also, remember that the harder you make it, the less likely it'll get stolen. Well, that's some great advice. With that, I think it's time to move on to our next guest. Thank you again for coming on to the show, Mr. McQueen. Ka-chow! No problem, Spence. It was awesome. Also, remember to come watch Cars 3 in theaters June 16th, 2017. No, Well, now that is over, I'd like to keep things moving on with my next guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the popular show SpongeBob SquarePants, Patrick Star.
Thank you for having me, Spence.
Of course, Mr. Star. Now, I invited you here today to talk about burglary. This is a rising issue in America with 1,579,525 happening in 2015.
That's a big number. I can't even count that high.
I see. Well, Mr. Star, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to protect themselves against burglary?
Well, I think you should keep your house locked up and the lights on.
Mr. Star? Mr. Star.
Huh? Sorry, Spence. Also, you should try to make it seem like you have animals. Also make sure to make it harder and more inconvenient for the burglar.
I see. Well, Mr. Star, how would you make sure that your house isn't broken into and burgled?
Well, first, you need to make sure that your doors can lock. And, you also need to make sure that your windows lock too.
That's some pretty good advice, Mr. Star. It's now time for us to move on yet again. Mr. Star? Well then, moving on. Our next guest is from the popular Call of Duty Modern Warfare series. Please welcome Captain Price. Hello, soldier! Hello, Captain Price. Now, coming from a popular FPS game, it may be weird, but could you talk about prevention for aggravated assault? First off, you need to defuse arguments. You don't want to get shot in some dumb situation, soldier. That's not what you train for. Okay. What other advice do you have for our audience? These days, those petty arguments in school are always fought for the same dumb reasons. 1. The bigger than a balloon ego. 2. Girlfriends or relationships smack. People these days care too much about their girlfriends and get way too protective. Thirdly, people fight because of those dumb slang terms. I don't know why these people are so quick to use those words. In battle, you don't have time for those words. I see. Well, Captain Price, how about ways to keep yourself safe if you do get into a bad situation? Well, Spence, you need to remember that you can only fight back as much as the other person. If he shoves you, you can't just punch him in the face. Also, stay in well-lit, populated areas. Being alone and vulnerable is a very easy way to be attacked. That's some quite rad advice. Well, thank you, Captain. They found me! On your feet, soldier! We are leaving! No, Jesus. Well, before this gets out of hand, why don't we bring in our next guest? You probably know him well. Please welcome the very strange, friendly hooded guy from down the street. Thanks for having me, dude. Of course, hooded guy. As you know, robbery is a scary thing and even an issue in the country with 327,374 robberies in 2015. What advice do you have for our audience? Of course, dude. First off, never look like an idiot who's lost. Secondly, don't carry buttloads of cash. Makes you look like an easy target. Also, you guys should really stop going in low-lit, empty places. Makes you such an easy target, dudes. Also, know that you can be aggressive in your attacks, or passive if you want. It's also okay to do nothing at all. That's wonderful advice, hooded guy. Thanks for that. Any final remarks? Well, you dudes need to know that what happens to you ain't your fault. It's not the victim's fault, bruh. Well, thank you very much. Our final guest for the night is the god of the dead, El Diablo. Or Satan.
Hello there, mortal.
Hello, El Diablo. So, what can you say about arson prevention?
Watch your kids. They tend to do dumb things. Also, make sure not to get involved in illegal activities like gangs and drug deals.
That's it?
Did you think there would be more? It's arson.
Oh. Thanks for being here.
You know why I actually came.
Okay there. That's all the time we have for today.
We never finish our game of...
Shut the cameras off. Now, please.